Welcome to Hooked on Health. My name is Sam Jenny. Now that you started your wellness journey, I want to talk about one of the most important pieces, your success. What does reaching your goal look like? As you go, you might realize that you need to redefine success.
My name is Taylor Elise Morrison. I am the creator of Inner Workout, which is a company that we call your self-care support system, and I'm also a coach. I really got into this field, into this work out of necessity. I've always been a pretty high achieving person, like got good grades in school and got a good job out of college and always had multiple things going on. And what I found more and more is that I kept getting to this place of burnout and overwhelm and doing the things that we're taught are self-care, like getting a massage or just taking a break on a weekend afternoon. It wasn't cutting it anymore. They felt kind of like these Band-Aid solutions where maybe I'd feel a little bit better for a few hours, but I still had to go back into this life that felt really overwhelming. And so I needed to create a relationship to self-care and kind of redefine what self-care was, which really ended up changing the way that I approached life. I also had to redefine what success was, because the way that I was defining success, I just kind of adopted from how society talks about success. And where that led me was to the place where I was feeling overwhelmed all the time and feeling really just discouraged and exhausted. So I do this work because I really need it. And I found that unfortunately, a lot of people seem to have the same or similar experiences to me. And I want to help them start on their own journey as well.
So, what did your self-care routine look like before versus after you worked on it?
Yeah. So before, self-care was really about an action. So it was I'm going to do my nails. I'm going to get a massage. And often it was also something tied to spending money. Now, the way that I define self-care and the way that Inner Workout talks about self-care is listening within and responding in the most loving way possible. So instead of it being this singular action, it's really this conversation that I get to have with myself where I'm noticing what my needs are and then figuring out, okay, how can I respond to that with love, which sometimes might be getting a massage. I still love getting massages, but it also could be I need to do a brain dump and get my thoughts on paper, or I need to look up from my screen and take a walk, or I need to have a difficult conversation with someone. So it's really expanded the way that I look at self-care. And I still have some routines and some things that I do on a more regular basis, but it's also it's so much more dynamic than it used to be. And also that listening within and responding with love, that changes your life when you're doing that regularly. Whereas a massage, I've probably said that a massage changed my life before, but not as much as actually constantly asking myself what I need in any given moment.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, responding with love instead of judgment, which I feel like a lot of people do nowadays. It says you'll notice you do something and you'll kind of beat yourself up over it rather than saying, well, why do I do that? And kind of taking a step back and almost being well, how can I tweak this to what I want it to be? And it's almost like you have to step outside of that judgment role.
Exactly. Yeah. It takes this place, it gets rid of judgment, it gets rid of obligation, and just creates this really kind and caring relationship that so often, especially the people who I work with regularly, they're really willing to extend that care to other people and struggle to extend that care to themselves.
I know before you talked about you had to redefine success. So what does that look like for you now?
Well, I guess before I was just looking at success the way everyone talks about it, how much money is in your bank account, what's your job title, all of those different things. Now, the way that I define success, I have 4 metrics for success. And those are the things that I'm measuring myself up against. So one is about having space. So success for me is having space and autonomy where I can make decisions and I don't have to do them out of obligation. I don't have to make a choice because I'm down to my last dollar. success also means that I have enough to enjoy and to be generous. And underneath that, and there's always a way to be generous. Like I could be dead broke and still be able to give someone like some of my expertise from an experience that I've had, or a smile or a word of encouragement. Success means that I am showing up, being caring to myself, and also really caring for the people who are in my close circle and showing them that they're a priority.
Like you said, I think it's so important to define success the way that you see it and not how society puts their implications on it.
Completely agree with that. And I feel like when we kind of just take on by osmosis what we've been told success is, a lot of times that's not actually how we define success. And it's interesting when you look at the research of like, after a certain amount, money doesn't make that much of a difference on your happiness. Like getting a job promotion, people watching this have probably experienced. You get the job promotion, you think that's gonna like change your life, that you can update your LinkedIn or update your like email signature to this thing. But at the end of the day, you're the same person. And so those things just aren't going to be fulfilling at the end of the day. And it's up to you to find out what is actually fulfilling to you and then orient your life towards that.
So what are some ways that people can find what fulfills them?
I think some of it is to think about like when you've actually felt successful, like not just, oh, I like got this trophy or I got this thing, but like what has like at a soul, like a complete full being level made you feel successful. The fourth metric of success for me is impact. And like, it doesn't have to be that I spoke to like hundreds of people that day. It could be that like I had a conversation with one person, or I like threw up something on Instagram stories and someone told me that was exactly what they needed to hear. Like those are the moments that light me up so much, way more than like, oh, being featured in this place or like whatever. Those things are very fleeting, but the more sustainable success is like having my husband tell me that he feels so cared for in our relationship. Like that's the stuff that matters to me. So start to think about when you felt that like deep level of success rather than that fleeting, really shiny, like I think of it as like a firework, like it's really bright and pretty and then it's gone. What's the thing that's more of a flame than a firework?
I love that. Okay. That's like an amazing like visual, but also just a way to see success. And also you want it to keep burning. You want it to be long lasting and not just a fleeting moment. Absolutely. Yeah. What are some ways that we can redefine success in our own lives?
Yeah, I think the first step is really to question. You can do a brain dump at first of like, what does it mean to be successful? Almost like word association. I hear success and I think all of these things. I think six-figure job. I think having this type of car. I think my house looks like this. And then you can question, okay, like how much of this actually matters to me? Like I do not care about having a super nice car. I could be a billionaire and it's just not going to be that important to me. That has nothing to do with my definition of success. So the first thing is really starting to question it. Question what you thought success was, question where you think that came from. And then you can start to notice what actually makes you feel successful. But I think it does you a lot of good to just have it's almost like a little rebellious phase where you're like, where's that coming from? Like, how do you know that's true? And just really question things around success.
So if you had to share just one wellness tip, what would it be?
It would be like, take a few moments, even if you pause it right now, to just listen to yourself. I think even, and almost especially people who are interested in wellness get really caught up in like, well, this person told me I should eat this way and I should move my body this way. And like, if I want to be super spiritual, I should do this thing. And it's like, okay, you're detaching from some of what mainstream society says, but you're still just replacing one voice with another, and it's not your own voice. So I think my biggest tip is just for you to find space, time, again, can be a couple minutes for you to listen within and to hear what's beneath the surface, because I guarantee you there's something there that's like, finally they're listening to me. It's just waiting for that space.
I think a lot of people wait for someone else to hear them too. And it's almost like you are your own person. You can hear yourself if you take that time to really listen and open up. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Redefining success is really hard. Because once you start to question things, you realize, oh, these messages are reinforced everywhere. But it's so worth it. Like, it is so fulfilling when that happens, and when you're able to shift and say, like, oh, I actually am going to opt out of that thing. I'm going to say no to this, and I'm going to say yes to this instead. There's like this level of groundedness and clarity that happens when you're clear on success and what it means to you. That's well worth the kind of push and pull, the difficulty at first. So it's going to be difficult, but it's also going to be really, really worth it.
What advice would you give to someone that's scared to take the first step, but knows that they need to do something?
What's coming to mind for me is just like, trust yourself. It's really, you have to build your relationship. And again, this is why we talk about self-care as this conversation where you're listening within and responding in the most loving way possible. You have to build a level of relationship with yourself where you know that you're trustworthy. And maybe that's a little bit why you're scared right now, because you're like, I don't know if I can trust myself. Like, I've spent so long putting my trust in other people, and I've spent so long trying to carry out what other people think I should do. So yeah, you can trust yourself. And maybe that's where you start, is finding these little ways to build trust. And it doesn't have to be a big leap. It can be these little baby steps.
Little baby steps, trusting yourself and meeting yourself with love sound like the perfect formula for someone who's a beginner.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insight on everything.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It's been a pleasure. It is my absolute pleasure to have been with you on this journey. Your mind, body, and soul are all equipped with what it needs to live its happiest, healthiest life. It's all up to you now what you do with this information that will make all the difference. Go to samjenny.com/hookedonhealth to rewatch any of these episodes or download your free workbook that you can use alongside as you go through your wellness journey. From the bottom of my heart, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.
I clean up my